Elisabeth Charlotte D'Orleans was born on September 13, 1676 at the Château de Saint-Cloud as the daughter of Philippe, Duc d'Orléans, who was the brother of Louis XIV of France, and of Elisabeth Charlotte of the Palatinate. Elisabeth Charlotte was a lively child who was outspoken like her mother. The king initially wanted Elisabeth Charlotte to marry Louis Auguste de Bourbon, Duc de Maine, who was the legitimate son he had with Madame de Montespan, just as he had arranged the marriage of Elisabeth Charlotte's brother to Françoise Marie de Bourbon, another one of the king's children with de Montespan. However, La Palatine fiercely opposed the marriage between Elisabeth Charlotte and Louis Auguste, and eventually the king folded. Marriages were considered to William III of Orange-Nassau, King of England, and to Joseph I, Holy Roman Emperor. However, neither of the possible matches resulted in an actual betrothal. Eventually, Elisabeth Charlotte married Leopold, the Duc de Lorraine, on October 13, 1698. The marriage was a direct result of the negotiations surrounding the Peace of Ryswick. Because the Duc de Lorraine was penniless, the king provided Elisabeth Charlotte with a generous stipend, which invoked the jealousy of many courtiers. The union between Leopold and Elisabeth Charlotte produced 15 children, 5 of whom reached adulthood. Those 5 are Leopold Clément of Lorraine, who remained unmarried, Francis Stephen of Lorraine, who married Marie-Thérèse of Austria. Francis Stephen and Marie-Thérèse are the parents of Queen Marie-Antoinette, and Francis would go on to become Holy Roman Emperor. Elisabeth-Thérèse of Lorraine, who married Charles-Emmanuel III of Sardinia. Prince Charles-Alexandre of Lorraine, who married Maria Anna of Austria. And Anne-Charlotte of Lorraine, who remained unmarried. At first, the marriage between Elisabeth Charlotte and Leopold was a very happy one. But after 10 years of marriage, Leopold started having an affair with Anne-Marguerite Gabrielle de Lignyville, Princess de Beauvau-Craon. Eventually, Leopold would end the affair and had 5 more children with his wife. In June 1701, Elisabeth Charlotte's father, Philippe D'Orleans, died after he had an argument with Louis XIV. The king forbade La Palatine, who was now a widow, to leave France, and thus mother and daughter only saw each other during Elisabeth Charlotte's visits to Versailles, although they wrote each other often. In 1715, Louis XIV died. Elisabeth Charlotte's brother, Philippe d'Orleans, became regent on behalf of the 5-year-old Louis XV. When Louis XV was crowned King of France on October 25, 1722, Elisabeth Charlotte and her family attended the ceremony. It was the last time she would see her mother, who died on December 8 that same year. Her husband Leopold's health had been deteriorating from 1720 onwards, and on March 27, 1729, he died. Leopold's death occurred while their son, Francis Stephen, was at the Viennese court. The day after Leopold's death, Elisabeth Charlotte was declared sole regent of the Duchies during the absence of her son. She governed for 8 months until Francis Stephen arrived at the Château de Lunéville on October 29, 1729. However, Francis no longer felt connected to the Lorraine court, causing him to leave Lunéville again in 1731, never to return. The regency was from there on out entrusted to Elisabeth Charlotte. As Francis was engaged to the Archduchess Maria-Thérèse of Austria, who was the daughter of Holy Roman Emperor Charles VI, everyone, including France, was aware that Francis might become the successor of Charles VI after his death, and that he would thus unite the ducal and imperial crowns within the same family. At the same time, the War of the Polish Succession had commenced, during which France had occupied the duchies despite Elisabeth Charlotte's protests. As France had been unable to restore Louis XV's father-in-law, Stanislas Leszczynski, to the Polish throne, A treaty was signed stating that Lesinski would renounce the Polish throne in exchange for the Duchies of Bar and Lorraine, while Francis Stephen would become Grand Duke of Tuscany upon the death of Gian Gastone de' Medici, thus allowing France to seize the Duchies of Bar and Lorraine. Elisabeth-Charlotte warned her son about the threat to the duchies, imploring him never to give up Lorraine. However, as the Holy Roman Emperor Charles VI had warned Francis Stephen that he would be denied the hand of Marie-Thérèse of Austria if he did not comply, Francis Stephen signed the renunciation. Although the Château de Lunéville had been given to Elisabeth Charlotte by Leopold in 1719 in case she'd survive him, she was evicted from the château. Stanislas Lesinski took up residence in Lunéville, and the Dowager Duchess had to move to the Château de Commercy, which had been uninhabited for about 15 years. On March 6, 1737, the Duchess of Lorraine and Bar left the Château de Lunéville. Despite her departure, Elisabeth-Charlotte remained very popular in the duchy. Her genuine sadness upon her departure from Lunéville was testimony of her loyalty to the duchies and its inhabitants. Stanislas Lesinski never visited her in Commercy, and they never met, driven by the resentment Elisabeth-Charlotte felt towards the fallen king who had usurped the duchies she once ruled over. On July 8, 1743, Elisabeth-Charlotte suffered a stroke. The Dowager Duchess's recovery was met with great enthusiasm, once again a confirmation of her popularity and the affection her subjects had for her. However, on December 22, 1744, she suffered a second stroke and fell into a coma from which she never woke up. Elisabeth Charlotte D'Orleans died on December 23, 1744. She was 68 years old. The Duchess was buried in the funerary chapel of the Dukes of Lorraine in the Saint-François des Cordeliers church in Nancy. The court of Lunéville observed a 1-month mourning period, and Elisabeth-Charlotte's residence in Commercy was also given to Stanislas Lesinski. Thank you for watching.